Hey everyone, this is Daniel, and today is the last piece of my Power Apps permission series. And this one we're going to focus on temporary access. So I'm going to walk you through a bunch of scenarios where how we can give permissions inside the app at the control level, how we can give that temporary permissions for the app and also for the environment. And we'll use a combination of lists, we'll be using the security groups, and just basically go and make this very temporary, but you have full control over that. So that's the gist of this video. But first, here's my intro. So as a recap, here's all that we had covered. In the first one, it was to give the user access. And the second one was remove the user access. And in this one, I'm going to focus on the temporary access. Now for the first two, I'll put the links below. Definitely go and check it out. My recommendation is definitely see 1 and 2, but also take a look at the remove user access, because I'll be using a little bit of that in this video over here. But first, I really want to give a special thanks to Casey, because she actually asked for this. Casey follows me on YouTube. She has subscribed to my channel, and she actually does, like my videos, and she comments it over there. And she asked me that, hey, Daniel, is there a way I can do like a time control to activate or disable the app? And, that got me thinking. And then after I was able to do some POCs and test it, I was like, you know what, Casey? I got it. I think I have a way to figure this out. And that's the whole gist of this video. So once again, thanks, Casey. That was a great idea. So here's just a scenario where I don't want to walk you through that. These are the 3 levels of permissions that we do. We do it at the service level, which I've shown you in the other 2 videos. We do it at the environment level, and we do it at the app level. But for the sake of this scenario, for the temporary access, we're only going to be focusing at the environment and at the app level. Now, specifically at the app level, like I mentioned before, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a SharePoint list, and you can use a Dataverse table over there, and you can set up 2 things. Basically, you want to have a list or a table to have the employees and the job schedule, and then we also need a security group for the app. So that's at the app level. At the environment level, we can do the same thing. We can use, again, a list or a table level, but we will mostly be using the security group for that. And we're going to use a combination of the Azure AD security groups and the Power Automate flows to do all this magic for us. So enough with the talking. Let's just jump straight into the demo. So what I have over here is 2 scenarios, 2 logged ins, and I want to show you that it's me as the admin. I'm the one who have logged in because I see everything, and I want to make sure that you also see everything. So here's the app that we'll be dealing with. And by the way, this is me who has logged in as the admin, so I've got full access over here. So this is the app, and in addition to that, I've got other things going on. So let's talk about those other things. What I'm doing is to monitor or to control the access in both inside the app at the control level and access to the app. I've got SharePoint lists. So let's take a look at that list. First important one is I've got a list of the employees and what time they're clocking in and clocking out. This is where we're going to store the data. I want to store the data to see, hey, when the example that I'm going to use over here is that when Elijah is a person coming in and he's clocking into work, what are those dates and times that he's clocking in? So this SharePoint list is where I'm going to store that information. But over here, this is an important one, because over here, I'm storing I have my reference that I'm going to refer to this list to see what days of the week is Elijah working. And also in those days of the week, what is his start and end time? Now, this is something that I came up for my scenario. You can take this to a whole different level. You can actually enhance that list to see that, certain days of the week, he or she might work double hours or things like that. And you need that flexibility. So kind of, take this idea and then, enhance on that. But I kind of wanted to just show you that this is my list, and I'm storing the information over here. And then finally, I have another list, which is basically to control the access level for that app level over here. So if somebody comes, over here, as you can see, I can not just do it for Power Apps. I can go ahead and do this in addition to Power Apps. What other services are, Power Apps, which is Power Apps and Power Automate, what other services I can control. And it's actually pretty simple. I've got 3 columns, the service name, the user, and the access. So if I come over here and I'm going to say that, okay, Elijah does not need access anymore to Power Apps, then I can go ahead and change this, and that takes care of that. Now, what it's going to happen is that I've got a flow, a Power Automate flow, which looks at this list. And as long as this list doesn't, it has any changes, it goes ahead and changes and makes the update to the security group over there, the Azure AD security group. So I just kind of, give you, the end user, the access to control what the person can and cannot do. And then the flow goes ahead and takes care of, touching Azure AD. And in your situation, you might have different responsibilities. Some people are on the Azure AD side. Some people are on the Power Platform side. So you will have to work out, to get access to all of those to build that flow. But at the end of the day, after you've got everything set up, the end user has full control over the access. So that's very important, as why I've done this over here. All right, so let's go and take a look at the app. All right, so what I've got now is my actual app, and I'm going to log in now as that user. So this is the user, his name is Elijah, and this is the main app. Now, when Elijah comes in to work, basically that's the scenario of the app. When Elijah comes into work, he or she has to go in and start this, this is the start time. And then once you're in the start time, you can go in and you can clock in. That's basically the whole point, is clocking in and clocking out. Now, it tells me right off the bat over here is that, hey, your work hours for today are for 10 a.m. to, 17 p.m. over there. So that's basically the whole idea. It also tells me what is the current time. It's 10:26 over there. So what I was thinking about this is that, okay, let's keep this a little flexible for the employee, because what if the employee comes in earlier, or if an employee comes in a little late? So I was playing around with the idea of at least giving 1 hour flexibility. And that's the important thing, is how is this button being visible for that one time span over there, the hour before and the hour after. So let me show you that magic formula, because that is going to be the most important one. So I'm coming in now here as the maker. I've got the app. I'm going to go ahead and edit it. And let's take a look at it. So it's opening up into the Power Apps Canvas Studio over here. And the main thing that I want to show you guys is on the app on start. There's the magic that happens over there. And then on that button in the visible, what else happens over there? All right. So right off the bat, it's the exact same app. But for me, it showed that it's, it's not time for you to clock in yet. So let's actually take a look. Like, how did Elijah see that, but Daniel's not seeing it? So I think this is a good time now to revisit that SharePoint list, because now you'll understand what's going on. So in the timesheet, all right, and now we can zoom in a little bit to see what's going on. Daniel works on all these days, what day he does and does not work, and his start time is from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Right now, if you look at my clock, it's actually 10:28 a.m. So even, like I said, if I was giving that time span of, 1 hour before and 1 hour after, the allowed time for that button would actually be from 6 a.m., which is an hour before, to 8 a.m., which is an hour after. However, I'm way past that because it's 10:28. That is why that button is not visible over here. Kind of understand what's going on? Because now if you look at Elijah's start time is 10 o'clock. And that 10 o'clock is definitely inside that time span of an hour before, which would be, 9 o'clock, and then an hour after, which actually would be around 11:30. That is why when Elijah comes in, he's able to see the button. But when Daniel comes in, which is me, I am not able to see this button. So kind of, you understand the beauty of how this is working. It's actually really thorough over here. All right, so let me not get ahead of myself. Let's go. App on start. Here's what happens, all right? A couple of things you already know. I go ahead and take the value of the user, go ahead and dump it into a variable. Pretty simple. But here's the first one, okay? I've gone ahead and set up two very important variables. The now variable, but the now variable is only taking the timestamp with the hour and the minutes. And then I've got another variable for hour. And that hour is literally taking the time you have now, but grabbing the hour out of that, all right? So this is two very important informations. The other thing is I want you guys to focus on is the clear collect. The clear collect is taking the data and temporarily dumping it into this collection, but that data is important. What the data does is it actually looks up and says, hey, here's that timesheet list that is there, all this information, but I don't want all the information. Can you just do a lookup and get me the information of the logged in user? And as you can see, I don't have any delegation issues or anything because I've followed the proper processes over here, and I'm getting all this information. Again, I'm matching it to the SharePoint list. As you know, delegations sometimes have changes happen based on the data source. So kind of keep all of that in mind. But this is what I've done on my side. All right, so now at the app on start, I have gotten all the information of the employee hours. This is the employee hours, and I've dumped it into a collection over here. And that is what I'm going to be referencing throughout this app over here. All right, got it? That's a very important first formula. Now let's take a look at all of this one over here. This warning label and then the button label. How are the two functioning? So let's actually just start with the warning label, because in here, I'm going to go and look at the visible, because this is where everything happens. All right. Now, right over here, I'm going to say that from the first item of the gallery, get the start time from that and just make sure that it is 1 hour behind, and then go ahead and also see if it is 1 hour ahead. Now, a question would come in is, Daniel, why are you doing first? What's the first item? Well, think about it. At the end of the day, I'm pulling the data from here, and I've already filtered it down to the user. So technically, the gallery will always have only one row of information over here. But in order for this formula to work, you always have to use the first. That's the only way it works. If you don't use that first function, it always errors out. So definitely just go ahead and use that first function. Now from that, I'm telling, in that gallery, there is a start time column. There's a data, and just make sure it is greater than the hour variable. Remember that hour variable I talked about? Let's go take a look at it over here again. In the apps on start, I went ahead and grabbed just the hour value of now, and I'm dumping it into this set function, which is a variable over here. All right, kind of makes sense now. So I come back over here, and all I'm doing to say is that if the current time right now matches inside that 1 hour, 2 hour gap of Daniel Christian and his timesheet, then go ahead and make this visible, or go ahead and make this invisible. That's basically all I'm doing over here. So this is the magic formula that you want to do. Now I have gone ahead and said that if you match this time, go ahead and set it as false. The reason I'm doing that is because it is the warning label over here. But if I take a look at the start button, in the start button over here, it will go ahead and show that as visible. So it's the exact same formula, but it just goes ahead and makes that as true. So let me actually prove that to you really fast, okay? Because when I come in now, say, go back to that SharePoint list. In that SharePoint list, mine is actually for 7 o'clock, all right? 7 a.m. That's why I'm getting that no. Now, if I go ahead and edit this in the grid view, and let me change mine to the same thing as Elijah. I go ahead and change that to 10, all right? Exit. So now I'm doing that. Let me go into my app. Let me actually remember this is me logged in. I've just put this refresh screen button over here. So if I refresh it, as you see, the current time changed to 10:33, and it also updated over here. It says that, hey, your clock in time right now is at 10 o'clock, and you work till 5 o'clock over there, and the current time is 10:33. So this falls in that time span, the time range that we gave. Is that Daniel starts at 10, but if he comes an hour before or an hour after, still go ahead and show that button available. That's why 10:33 still falls, and it gives me that button over there. All right. So remember, before it was 7 o'clock, it was hidden, but now it's at and I've changed that to 10 o'clock, and it works. Inside, there's another magic happening, and it's the exact same formula. Because I need to keep track of which button should I allow Daniel to do. Is he going to clock in, or is he going to clock out? So this formula for the visibility is, again, the exact same. What I've got over here going on is two things. In the on select, just go ahead and patch that information in. I'm not going to spend too much in, but I'm going to show it to you so you can always pause and take a look at it. This is just a simple patch formula, and I'm always grabbing whatever time I have right now. I'm not updating anything. I just go ahead and grab it. That's why my data will always look like this, because this is the SharePoint list in the back end where I'm storing all this information. And it's very important that I do this, because what happens is, say sometimes for whatever reason, employees go ahead and double click or go ahead and add that in. I could make the app a little bit more smarter to see that, hey, for this date and time, is there already a clock in? Yes, there's a clock in. Go ahead and hide that button. So you can make your app a little bit more smart. But at the end of the day, I just want to make sure I'd rather have more information than I have less. So that's basically what I've done over here. So going back to that app over here, I've gone ahead and, patched it to save all that data. And then here, it's visible is the exact same what I've done before, except I'm only focusing on the start time. If you notice in the beginning, in the opening screen, I had the start and the end time. And that's important because that button just takes me actually inside over here. This button is only for the start time. So that's why I've removed the end time and it's only focusing on the start time. But if you've noticed, if you already started thinking about that, it's okay. So maybe for this one, for the clock in, Daniel's only focused on the start time. Maybe I'm guessing for the end time, he's got the reverse going on. And you're absolutely right. So let's go back and now go and take a look over here. This is the clock in. If you look at the clock out, exactly the same. Go ahead and patch that information in. And when you look at it's visible, you do it right here. See, in the it's visible, I'm only focusing on the end time. So you've got the idea. You've got those magic formulas over here. This is where you can go ahead and make sure that you match it to your scenario. But this is basically how I am controlling permissions inside the app. And this is why I kind of focused a little bit more time on this one, because this is now again, making that time bound permissions or time bound temporary access inside the app over here. All right. Can I understand what I'm saying? Good. All right. I think you get it. Now let's jump out of this one and I want to now focus outside the app. So for that, I can now jump in, focus purely on the app level over here. So here's the app. Now I want to make sure that I can also go ahead and, control the permissions for this app or, take care of the temporary permissions. So I go ahead and click on share and over here, definitely the owner shows up, but I've also got a security group. So the question is that, Daniel, how are you going to handle who should be in it or who should be outside it? So I'm going to handle that in two levels or two ways. One is, first of all, again, handling it based on these are the people that I have access to that app. So I want these people to be part of that security group. So I'm actually controlling who should be in or who should be outside that security group right by this list over here. Some of you may say that, Daniel, that's kind of too much work. Can I just go into the Azure side over there and just take care of it at that time? And you're right, you could do that. But again, think of what I'm saying. I am giving the power user the control of who should and should not be in that security group. And the way the power user can do is just, go to their SharePoint list and update the list over there. And then this, based on what you see over here, actually shows up in that security group. This is that security group that I'm referencing to. Remember, this is that same security group which is part of that app over here. See, this is the app, or rather, this is that security group which has access to that app. And if you've already guessed it, Elijah is part of that security group. So let me go over here, let me go back over here, and there you go. Elijah is part of that security group. So let's play around with some of this, all right? What I'm going to do first is I'm going to actually go and take a, go to the user access. I'm going to edit this in grid view. And right here, I can go ahead and now change that to no. All right. And then we'll go ahead and run that flow. Now the flow I've built is just as a button. You can even go ahead and set that flow up on a regular schedule, whether it runs on an hourly basis, daily basis, you can do that. But let me actually show you that flow. So over here, I've got 4 different flows. I've got 2 for the app level, and I've got 2 for the environment level. So once I actually walk you through the app level, the environment level is the exact same because it's the same concept, SharePoint lists and a flow. So here, we're going to focus on removing the user access. So remember, the first thing, as a quick recap, we came into the SharePoint list. It was Elijah. He was yes. Went ahead and changed that to the no. Now I'm going to go ahead and focus on removing user for that timesheet app. So let's go and take a look at it. And this flow is so simple. But I want to walk you through it. So remember, this is what I did. Manually trigger it. You can make it as on a scheduled time. And the first thing it uses is the get items. So it actually goes to that same SharePoint site and it goes ahead and grabs that Power Apps user access level over there. Power Apps user access. That's what it does. But I've also gone ahead and done a filter query. It says that go ahead and only grab those items where access equals no. What I'm referencing to is this access equals no. And some of you may be thinking is that, Daniel, this access has an uppercase A. In your flow, you've got it as a lowercase a over here for that access. Why did you do that? It's a good question. And the reason you do that is because the original, when that list column was made, this access, if you click on it, if you actually look at the column, it had that lower level, lowercase a. And that's why I'm using that. Because remember, this is the real column name. This might be an updated column name, but I'm always referencing the real column name, all right? Kind of threw that little tidbit over there. All right, so I went ahead and changed, updated this over here. And now on the flow side, I'm making sure that I'm only grabbing those. And now it's fine if it's more items over there, but in this case, only one employee, Elijah, I've changed his to no. Yours could have multiple ones as well, and that's fine. Because thanks to the filtering, server-side filtering that's happening over here, it's only going to go ahead and grab that. So filter query is really useful. After that, I've gone ahead and added a condition over there to run all. And here, I'm only grabbing the values that I'm getting from that SharePoint list. But what I got to do is I got to use the get user function. Now, two things I want to mention over here. First of all, this is a standard connector. So you're already good to go. You don't have to worry about paying more of that. Now I've gone ahead and say that I need the user ID or the principal name. Email addresses work for that. So I went and put the email address over there. Next, I got to go ahead and get the group ID of that security name. Now, if you've got full global admin level access, you can easily go and grab this. Otherwise, you can just contact your Azure AD team and they'll go ahead and get that for you. What they actually want you to do is they come over here, they go to that security group, they go to the properties, and in that properties, they go ahead and grab that object ID. That's the same one that I'm getting. So if you just focus on the last 4 digits, it says 2408. I come into my Power Flow over here, 2408. That's what I'm doing. And the membership ID, I get that from this one over here. Because I've added the user, I've added the username, and from here, I get the membership ID. So that's basically what it does. Specific, very simple flow, but this is only to remove the users. Therefore, the action that you want to use is to remove member from a group. All right, so let's actually do that test just as a quick recap or just to validate. Here is that security group. And right now, Elijah has got access over here. He's part of that security group. But if I come now and I go ahead and run this flow, I'm going ahead and running it. You could just do that from your flow since it's a button over there, or you could set it up on the schedule. So it's going ahead and it's running. It's running right now. If I just go and click on it, it'll actually probably be done by now. Yep, it already ran successfully and it's finished, which means if I go in now and take a look at this security group, and if I refresh it, watch, Elijah will disappear. If I refresh it, Elijah disappeared over here, which means he is not part of that security group, which means he's been taken out from this security group over here. He's been removed from that. That means that he doesn't have access to the app anymore. Now I want to pause over here for a second because when you're testing this, you do this, you immediately go to the app and you will still see it. Now I've noticed from my experience over here, sometimes it usually takes anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes for this change at the security group to propagate over to the Power Apps right up to the app level. It sometimes takes up to 15 minutes. I've seen that combination anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, but it does work. So kind of keep that in mind, all right? So in fact, what if you notice, if I go in over here, even if I refresh it, you still see the access to the app. So just kind of keep that in mind, because what will happen though in about exactly 10 to 15 minutes, it will go ahead and disappear and it'll start giving me some errors that you don't have access to that app over there anymore. So we'll keep it as it is. If you have time, we'll go revisit that. So that was the second one, is now we go ahead and remove it at the access to the app. Remember, the first one was inside the app. We did it at the control level, which was also conditional based on that SharePoint list. This one over here is also temporary because you're using a flow to take out access from the security group, which gives access to the app. Now, if you've already understood this one, you've already figured out the environment one, because the environment was the exact same thing. And why I say that is because when we go back to the admin over here, in the admin, let's go ahead and take a look at the admin center. In the admin center, we go and take a look at this environment specifically. This environment was the production one, so it has that name prod. So I click on it, and over here it actually has a security group, which is Power Apps Prod Environment SG. And I can just confirm that. I go in over here into my Azure AD groups. That's the one, prod Environment SG. You click on it, go see the members, and I must have had a bunch of members over here. So yep, There it is. And Elijah is actually one of them as well. So I've gone ahead and done that. And my flow, if you've already guessed, is the exact same thing. I've gone ahead here and I've created a flow. So let's go take a look at that flow really quick. I've also named it is to remove users from the prod environment. So when I click on it and look at that, you'll start to notice that this is very similar. Again, getting the items over there, referencing that same column over there, and going ahead and removing it. Now, even though if for whatever reason somebody was already removed from that group and you rerun it, it will give you an error, but it still takes care of it. So don't worry about that. It'll take care of the other ones. What I mean to say is that if you take a look at my SharePoint list, I've got Elijah over here. I've got, Daniel and a whole bunch of other people. Right now, if I say I've, set Elijah at no, and now I got to go ahead and take out Finn. So I changed him to no. If I go now and run that flow, it will run successfully right at this step level. For Elijah, it'll error out because it'll tell me Elijah's already taken out. But for Finn, it'll run successfully. And sometimes it gives you that fail or not fail over there successful. So as a workaround for that, you can actually come in over here. You can go ahead and drop a compose. In that compose, you can put in a statement saying that, so much user was actually taken out, has been removed. So you can do that, and then you go here, you can come in and in the configure run after, you can actually put a failed or is skipped. You can do that. That way you at least don't see the errors. It's fine if you still see the error because the flow still runs over there. All right, so it's kind of showing you that idea. So this was that third video, the third process of giving temporary access or time-bound access. And we broke it down into actually 3 different levels over there. Inside the app, right at the control level, I was able to, make it such that people still came into the app. They had access to the app over there, but I blocked the control. And the control was referring to another SharePoint list or just another list in general or a table to just make sure, does this user have access to that? Outside the app, I just use a combination of Azure AD security groups and Power Automate. The employee or the supervisor, the manager had full control. You can go to the SharePoint list or table, update the data over there, and then you can go ahead and just hit that button manually, and it goes ahead and changes that access directly, takes the person out of the access straight to the app over there. And I did the same exact thing for the environment level as well, because environment is also controlled by an Azure AD security group, but the control of the Azure AD security group, I allowed that again at the user level using a SharePoint list, and then the Power Automate flow goes ahead and updates the Azure AD security group. So hopefully this 3-part series was helpful to you. I've covered a bunch. Go ahead and watch them as and how you need it. But hopefully this was helpful. And as always, keep power apping.